All right, Harmony Science Academy Honors Geometry students, let's go ahead and get into date 419. The topic is still trigonometry, trig summary. Okay, so we're not going to be looking at nothing new, but because we've looked at so much that is very valuable moving forward, it's very important that we summarize and hopefully give you guys a chance to retain it into your next Algebra 2, pre-calc, calculus, all that good stuff, okay? We're going to pause the video here, give you guys a chance to look up how do you know when to use trig functions. Okay, we aren't all going to find the same thing, but get a good sophisticated look into uses of trigonometry. Okay, have fun finding something. And next, what we're going to do here is we're going to again summarize everything we've done trigonometry. Okay, so we're going to name the steps here. This is a very valuable set of notes. So as we move on to other things and later test you back on this, you can trust these really good looking notes. Okay. So let's name the steps. Number one, you label the triangle. Okay, don't forget that your theta first, opposite right away, hypotenuse, adjacent, and with some of these advanced problems, altitude. Okay. Number two, you identify the trigonometric identity. Right after you've kind of gathered everything, you're like, okay, sine, cosine, or tangent. Number three, you're going to substitute, okay, into your sine, cosine, tangent, right? You'll actually put stuff in there, whatever's actually given and whatever they're asking you or the unknown. And then lastly, as you guys would imagine, sometimes it's done here and sometimes you'll solve, okay? You'll do some basic algebra to cancel and you'll be done, and then sometimes you'll solve by doing some algebra, isolating the unknown, and then finishing off in the calculator. So you want to go ahead and take some time, copy that, okay? And notice that we pretty much do the same thing over and over with all these scenarios. So let's go ahead and look at this scenario. This first scenario is trigonometry, finding trig ratios. Okay, so if you guys remember these were pretty straightforward. They're asking us for the sine of x, right? So the first thing we want to do is label this triangle. Okay, now here we weren't given a theta at the very beginning. Okay, so all we're going to be asked to do, actually, excuse me, it wasn't as explicit as these next examples, but here remember they're referring to x. Okay, so that's your angle measure. Okay, so essentially that's your theta. We didn't call it theta in the beginning because we didn't know theta, but now we can. Okay, so theta, and let's go ahead and follow basically our steps. Okay, so here's theta. Opposite would be over here. Okay, and again, we're working to keep this information in your heads moving forward. Okay, hypotenuse would be over here, and this would be adjacent. Okay, so there's number one. Number two, let's go ahead and take a look at number two, is identify the trigonometric identity. So in this case, it's been provided for us. So it's sine theta equals SOHCAHTOA, right? Opposite over hypotenuse. So it's opposite over hypotenuse. So now, right, step one, step two, step three is what? Substitute. So let's go ahead and say sine. There's nothing we can plug in for theta beyond x, so we'll leave it as x equals, where's my opposite? 36. And my hypotenuse is 45. Okay? And for these, that is it. The only thing that you guys have been trained to do in your previous math classes to simplify. So this would be 4/5. Okay? All right. So let's move on to the second scenario. Trigonometry, find missing sides. Okay, so again, step one is to label your theta. Okay. Now keep in mind that some of you guys who are missing presentation credits will be able to recover or replace that 0 with a 70 by presenting these, and some of you guys have already presented, so you're perfect. Okay, now you're just working on mastery and helping those that need help. So let's go and continue. Okay, so I've got my theta. With that, I've got opposite. Okay, I've got my hypotenuse and my adjacent. Okay, so step one, step two is to identify the trigonometry, right? Or trigonometric identity. So apparently I'm gonna be working with hypotenuse and adjacent, so that's cosine, right? Some of you guys might still have to flip through your notes, but some of you guys definitely got it down. Okay. After we've identified step two, we go to step three, which is substitute. So we've got cosine 67 equals adjacent 20 over x. Okay, so here's the missing side. So what do we do here? We can pause the video, but real quick, okay, you guys know that since you're dividing by x, the opposite is multiply by x. Why? So that it can cancel. Now we have x cosine 67 equals 20. And the next thing we do here is we want x isolated, so we're gonna divide by cosine 67. Now, very important, again, some of you guys are ready to really grow in your understanding. This is an operation on 67, so you cannot separate it, okay? It's a package deal, so careful with that. So now I have it isolated, and x equals this in the calculator, okay? Make sure it's in degree mode. I'm not gonna punch this in here for the video, just so it's not that long of a video, but you'd have your response there. Okay. All right. Let's go and move on. Okay. The third trigonometric scenario we dealt with was finding angle theta. Okay. So let's go ahead and proceed as always. And I'm kind of rushing here. I hope I don't miss anything. If I do, please let me know. But yeah, we've got a triangle. Let's go and label theta. Right. That question mark, we'll call it theta. Opposite is over here, right? Basically an O underlined, and then the hypotenuse and the adjacent. Okay, so we've got step one taken care of. Step two, because identify the trigonometry. So I got theta, adjacent, and opposite. Sounds like tangent. Tangent. You can't just write tangent, guys. Okay, you're taking tangent of something, so tangent theta. And SOHCAHTOA is opposite over adjacent. So step three is to substitute. So we're going to go tangent theta equals opposite, which is 28, over adjacent, 19. Okay. And again, we can pause the video here to figure out what is it that we do. Okay. And if you said take the tan inverse of both sides, good. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's see here. I've got to squeeze it in here, so let me go and rewrite this. Again, we want a nice set of notes. So it's 2819. And I'm going to take tan inverse of both sides. Okay. Why? So that it can cancel on this side. And now I've got theta equals, this goes in the calculator. Again, a lot of times it's not an exact answer, so don't forget to hit control equals, which will give you the equivalent value. Again, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go ahead and do that here, but you guys can check it, or we can check it in class. Okay. All right, and finally, our last scenario that we dealt with, a little more advanced. Some of you guys got it down, great, and some of you guys struggled. So this is your second look at it, okay? But hopefully now in this summary you'll see that it's the same pattern, okay? Find the side given the altitude, okay? When you see that the altitude has been given, it just means it's more advanced scenario, but the steps are all the same. Okay, so let's go ahead and prove it. So now I'm gonna ultimately need to solve for x, okay? But I'm not ready to do that because all I have is this two pieces of information. Remember, we need four, right? The trig, theta, and two sides. So I only have two. I can't even come up with a third because what do I do? Okay? So right now I'm gonna basically ignore, okay? I'm gonna ignore that and I'm gonna just deal with this triangle, okay? And this altitude here, which we discussed, is gonna be very helpful to me in solving this, so I'm gonna call him for now x naught. Okay? It's a known, but it's not the x that I really care about, so we're calling it x naught, okay? So let's go ahead and label it. So I've got theta, which means this is opposite, okay? And this is my hypotenuse, and this then is my adjacent. Okay, so I've labeled my triangle 1. Step 2 is identify the trigonometric identity, right? So I'm looking at the fact that I'm working with hypotenuse and opposite, so that sounds like sine theta equals opposite, which is x naught, over um, hypotenuse. Okay, now some of you guys are like, hey Mr. Since we're gonna figure out x naught, shouldn't this be theta naught? Good. Okay, if you're not quite sure, we can have that discussion in class, but all this means simply is that we're dealing with a different theta than the one we're gonna deal with to get our x. So for now this is theta naught. Okay, so we'll come in here, so it's not the exact same as this next theta, and it's linked to this x naught. Okay, it's a little advanced notation, but good thing a lot of you guys are handling it. The rest of you guys just kind of think about it, okay? And maybe ask somebody as you're working with them. All right, so step 2, we've got our trigonometric identity. Next thing we do is substitute. So I'm going to go sine, my theta is 50, equals x naught. Whoops, yeah, I don't have anything for x naught, over the hypotenuse is 6. Okay, so in this case, again, we can pause the video to ask what algebra do we do to solve. Okay, and divide by 6 is canceled through a multiply by 6, so we're left with x naught equals 6 times sine 50. Okay, all right, now again, we don't get exact answers typically, so that's about something. Now because I need it to continue, let's go and punch that in the calculator. Okay, 6 times sine 50. Again, I'm in degree mode. Okay, 6 times sine 50. Okay, all right. So since I don't have an exact, or I don't have, I have an exact value, let me go ahead and get an approximate I can work with, and we get 4.6. Okay. All right. Now that I have my 4.6, let's go ahead and kind of start over with this new triangle. Okay. So I'm actually going to erase everything, because now all I care about is this triangle. Why? Because it involves the x that I ultimately care about. Okay. So I'm going to erase this portion over here, and I'm just going to deal with this triangle here, and this is 4.6. Okay, so let's go ahead and start labeling this triangle. We've now got our new theta. Opposite is this side over here, and the hypotenuse is on this side, and then I've got my adjacent. Okay, so notice that that first triangle was pretty much stuff I've already done. Guess what? Same thing here. Okay, I'm gonna now, after labeling my triangle, I'm gonna identify the trigonometric identity. So let's take a look here. Okay, I'm giving this opposite, and I care about adjacent, so that sounds like tangent, tan theta, TOA, SOHCAHTOA, TOA, opposite over adjacent. Third step is substitute, so I got tangent theta over opposite, which is 4.6, over adjacent, which is x. Okay, notice now I don't have the not. Why? Because this is that special theta that's going to get me that very special value that they're asking me about. Okay, so here it's another opportunity for us to apply our algebra. Okay, so we can solve for x. So here the first thing we do, since I'm dividing by x, I'm going to multiply by x, and it cancels. And I'm left with 4.6. And now since I want to solve for x, I need it all by itself. So you guys should know exactly what I'm about to do here. Is divide by tangent. Now I forgot to plug in for theta. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that now. Let me go back at least in here. Okay, and it's showing 31. And if you're asking, wondering why I didn't do it here, I should have, okay, when I was substituting. So I apologize for going a little too fast there. And again, the reason for dividing by tan 31 is so that it cancels on this side. X is left all alone. And when you guys punch it in the calculator, you'll get equivalently what the value they're looking for, which is that missing side. All right, guys, again, thank you for everything you're doing in this fourth quarter. We'll talk to you in class, okay?